turn on this. All right. Hello.
Hello.
Coffee time. Actually, I already had a coffee and I went for the water today. So water with
I'm double fisting it.
water with coaches.
Coffee and water.
There you go. Well, gotta drink always lots of water, particularly when you're drinking a coffee. So I always, like you, have my glass of water and coffee. But all right, let's introduce ourselves first a little bit. I'm Heike Fallon, and I'm a coach. And if you're somebody who is stressed, overwhelmed, and fatigued, and you know you should take more care of your health and your relationships, and you feel like you're not having enough time in the day, I help you with really creating the life you love with neuroscience. And so if you have a brain, a body, and you're on this planet and you want to get that all figured out, I'm the one. And I got Shannon here. We love sharing topics. And Shannon.
Hi, Shannon Passalacqua, and I am the creator of the Miscarriage Warrior community. I specialize in helping women heal after a miscarriage and kind of find their place after going through grief. So I teach the tools to get through grief, and then I teach you how to live your best life after it.
You're creating the best life as well, because at the end of the day, right, well-being and health is so crucial. And that's why we meet and talk about topics that are so important for our health and well-being. And today we decided to talk about play. And I know, and today,
which doesn't really go hand in hand with grief, you would think, but it does.
Yeah, it does. It's super helpful. We're gonna chat about that. So play, oftentimes people think, it's just a kid thing. Like the kids play, we all know they do their thing. Most parents are happy if they're playing by themselves and
quietly.
And it's quiet. But the truth is, if you have little ones, engage with that. Playing for adults is actually super important. And if you don't have any little kids, you can still play, because play has a tremendous impact on the brain and our mental health and well-being and so much more. But before we start, I want to also clarify what play really is, because sometimes people don't realize play is not just the opposite of work, because, the actual true playing is actually kind of unstructured in a sense. So if I'm going and, playing a board game is playing as well, but I'm talking really more about the play that comes from, first off, voluntarily. It's done voluntarily. So, and oftentimes, it kind of creates itself. So it's not like the structured play that we have a lot of teenagers in, right? Like it's one after another. You have to go to this practice and that practice. That's not play. Play is actually an open form where you may not even know what you're going to do. It just happens. There's a space and it happens with an intrinsic motivation. That's very important. There's no, it's not for the purpose of gaining some money or, winning something. It's purely for the act of engaging. And that's a very important part, engaging fully in the moment into play. And if you, I grew up, we went in the woods and we didn't know what we're going to do that day, right? We played and we ended up building something and it kind of evolved. That's play, where it happens. And it happens to, kind of without you really knowing what the end product will be.
Right. It's using your imagination. And what I think is really interesting these days, and I think about this with my boys a lot, is, they have TV, they have video games, they have their devices. And, we have limits on when they can use it and how often they can use it. And when they are off of their devices, away from them, or when we are in the mountains or whatever, when we give them that time to just be bored, that's when they start using their imagination. And that's when they start getting on the floor and creating and making and playing together, or, going out with the neighborhood friends and riding their bikes and doing all of that. And that's when their brain starts working more. And I think it's so fascinating to watch my kids do that, because it's easy for me to just put them on a device because then they're quiet and they're occupied and da, da, da. But when I watch them go from I'm so bored to like finding something to do and being super creative, it's really fun to watch. And it's so good for their brain. It creates those different neural pathways.
But it's good for our brains too, us as adults. And I think that's where, yeah, we one key component I think is making time and creating the space for it. If we're just to the top, you know, then you don't get the moment of boredom or the moment of the space to have that creativity.
Yeah, and that leads me to what I encourage my my clients to do, because when you've gone through grief, it's really hard to remember how to have fun, because you have a guilt around having fun, or you feel shamed for having fun. You've also, because you've been in such grief and possibly for a really long time, you've retrained your neural pathways. So you have to reteach yourself how to play and how to have fun. And very often part of my training with my clients is I have them schedule it. I have them schedule play, and it's in their calendar. And, you know, I say schedule joy, and whatever that looks like for you, because, you know, I think sometimes, if you go into couples therapy, a therapist will say like, okay, you need to schedule sex because you're not having sex, and da, 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 and then that gets you in the mood.
Yeah.
Same goes for play. Like sometimes you just need to schedule it because you're not used to doing it. It's not part of our daily routine to just go play. And you need to put it in your calendar.
Yeah, and it's hard sometimes when you, exactly what I have done with my clients, actually blocking out time that is purely there for nothing.
Yeah. And that is so weird, because
nothing, just for you to create me time. And if possible though, if that person hasn't done play or really just let it go, it's hard. It's hard.
Very hard.
It's hard in the beginning. It's a skill we need to learn again, because we're so used that everything is structured, everything is back to back to back. We actually have to learn to play. And so I always say, yes, schedule the time, but then also create the environment. So that's where I'm like, I know I'm going to give an example. So that just applies to me being an outdoor lover. If I'm outdoors, it's super easy for me to play. We could be going, you know, on a short little hike or something like that, end up at a lake, and you sit there and you sit there. And after a while, you throw in rocks, or then you throw in a branch, and then you try to hit the branch with the rock or whatever comes up, right? Like that's the things we've done. And
skipping rocks.
It's a space where you don't get sucked into the same rhythm again. So it can be harder when you're at home in that same environment. So if you're struggling, I always suggest, if somebody's struggling to do that at home because they feel like they have to, you know, do this and clean up the kitchen, or, you know, do this or that, you know what I mean? Like figure out space, like go to a park, go to, you know, somewhere else, a different environment where you can just kind of create the awareness of what's around you. And then sometimes just, you know, in the moment, do something.
I always suggest when people are struggling with this, which I think most adults probably struggle with this, is what did you like to do when you were younger? Like what kept you occupied when you were younger? Did you like to build blocks? Did you like to color? Did you like to paint, you know, finger paint, whatever it was? Did you like to, I loved to go out and build like mud pies, whatever. Like, what did you like to do? And start with that.
Yes.
You know, you don't have to get like in the mud if you don't want to, but, you know, take an aspect of that. You like to be in nature, go out in nature and start there. And I used to love to ride horses. and I'm trying to find the time to go back and start riding horses again. Like, go back to what you used to love to do and start with that.
Absolutely. And then think of and be aware of how you bring in more creativity in what you do. So for example, giving you another example, I'm a avid skier, love skiing. And the act of skiing isn't necessarily play, but for example, we sometimes for the fun of it, start skiing formation and, cross certain ways or, do like fun things in the moment of skiing. So creating something, being creative in the act of what you're doing, can be play. Let's say you're hiking and you just go on your trail like you do, or you can start, and the kids, I have to say, watch the kids. Mine are older now, but watch younger kids. They're not walking on the trail. Climbing on the next tree that's on the side, they're like balancing along,
My kids used to go, when we would go down a trail, they would pretend they were bikes. So they would run as fast as they can and go like this. And they were like pretending to be bikes and do a jump. And I'm like, so funny. I am the opposite, where I'm like, I'm on a hike. This is serious stuff. But I'm on a hike to get my exercise, to get my fresh air. And it's routine. I'm not looking to do the fun things. I'm like, I am here to
so it's like sometimes, just, let loose, let go, and just kind of think more creative instead of just sticking to the same trail. And even if it's just, if you're on a run, hey, maybe you're gonna do, run over something across or jumping over something in between, and just making it more creative again, I think creates the sense of play in a first level.
What's the importance of it? Why do we need it?
So, well, as we already said, it has a huge impact on the brain. So first off, I think the most important thing is it's the brain has neuroplasticity, means it can create new neural connections. And so as we go out, and it's not structured of the same thing that we always do, but now we're like, let's use the trail, right? We jump off and balance along a beam or something like that. There's a lot of different movement we're doing, different eye perception, depth perception that comes into play, something different, and it creates new neural connections. So we basically really in a positive way activate the brain and the brain growth from that. So we have a more broader spectrum of growth. So first off, super good for a healthy brain, for long living. But it's also decision making. A lot is the problem solving and decision making comes out when we play. And that's when you see oftentimes, if you look at kids, right? When they play and it's that unstructured play, whatever they come up, they figure out, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And oftentimes when you play with somebody else together, which was even better, it has a huge social component. And the human brain is wired for connection. And when we're solving problems together and doing that collectively, that deeper connection gets really, really embedded in what we do. And that helps our emotional well-being and our general mental health. So from that standpoint, that's just a couple of things. Obviously, neurotransmitter release, right? If it puts a smile on our face, usually there's the good feel good,
the endorphins going,
the endorphins are being released. We know that has an impact on health and well-being. So that is a component as well. So there's a lot that's going on that alone those things, it's a reason to go out and play.
You saw on my social media posts for my birthday, we went roller skating.
See, that's play. That was play.
And it was fun because it was something that none of us had done for years, 20, 30 years. And it was now that you talk about it, there was decision making. I mean, you're going around and you're trying to figure out how to, you're doing the best you can to not fall.
Yeah, but did you also try to do something different after a while? Because you going, okay, I got it figured out. But then after a while,
like,
you
okay, I'm
start
gonna
getting
dance.
bored, right?
Yeah.
You're getting bored. And then what did you do?
Start dancing, start trying to do like squats in it, or the duck, whatever it's called, which I can't do anymore. But
See, that's play.
Next morning, I was like, oh my God, we had so much fun. And it just released so many endorphins, and it was just a good time. And it was because we were doing something that we don't normally do. Usually we just go out, we have, dinner or whatever. And this was just something different.
See, that was fantastic play. So that is something I think we need to bring into our lives more often. And it does, as we said, require time, making time, and also the space to create that space. I mean, if you're really good, you can do it at home too. I just know for myself, it is much easier if I'm in a different environment. Like you said too, letting go means also sometimes I don't care about what people say. If I'm jumping on some, tree stump or
right. Or if I'm doing snow angels in the
exactly.
snow.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, is like going out and building a snowman with your kids, or however that looks for you in your life. But like we said, scheduling it. So at our age, I think it needs to be scheduled, because we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Because things are going to sidetrack us, right? We're always going to say, okay, well, I need to do the laundry, or I need to do this. Like you said, going out of your house and scheduling it to go out of your house. So putting it on your calendar to leave.
Well, so one huge thing, since you said that too, with the snow angel, I was thinking like big component too is we're talking oftentimes, right, how important mindfulness is, but also really being aware of your senses, right? So when you do things like a snow angel, right? Because oftentimes with grief, and also, my clients that are stressed and overwhelmed can't feel themselves anymore, because everything is so overwhelmed at the fight and flight mode. So really checking in and feeling in the moment. So if you're starting out, haven't played, and you're sitting there and you're like, I don't feel bored, I just don't know, like start kind of just checking in with yourself, feel it, and then start maybe like picking up something and just feeling the texture of it. Or like this, that's what I thought about the snow angel, right? Like, how does it feel moving the snow and the resistance? How does it feel the back getting cooler because of the snow? Really being aware of the senses. I'm visualizing, last time I did the snow angel, the sky was blue, right? Taking that in, and the perspective you have when you're lying on your back. And so really honing in and being aware of your senses will not help just the play, but also, is so vital for really grounding and finding ourselves again, particularly when we've been in the fight and flight. And that will also oftentimes help us relax.
That's I love that point. And it wasn't one that I had, originally thought of, but when we're stressed, like you said, it grounds us. It brings us back to our bodies when we can notice, the feelings, the texture, what we're smelling, what we're hearing. And if we're not stressed, if we're not in grief, it's going to add more mindfulness and gratitude to our day. So it really helps ground you in that moment, and finding the gratitude of the moment, which I think is going to make us, again, rewire our neural.
Yes. And I'm going to throw one more, and I'm pretty sure that is something you already do with your clients, is, as I mentioned before, the connection, right? And deepen connection in our relationships. So when we play with others together, we're creating not just something in the moment, but it's actually an experience that we will remember. The brain functions in memory patterns, and it's a positive memory. And we need to create, oftentimes with grief or trauma, these positive events, more positive experiences. And essentially it has shown too, happiness is not the moment of when we, you know, buy a new car or something that doesn't last. Yes, we'll be happy for a second, but what really lasts and gives us the real feeling of happiness and contentment is actually the experiences of you know, things that we've done in life, particularly with other people together. So
there's a lot of data out there to show that when you're part of a community, especially when you're going through grief, it's community helps. And that's why I created a sense of community in the Miscarriage Warriors community. Like when you have other people that you're experiencing things with, it's going to bring, like what you said, it's going to bring that sense of happiness to you. So even if you're in the middle of grief, community helps.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, we're already getting to the
I
end.
know.
So I want to, if anybody watched all the way to the end, there's a book that's called Play. It is a little older now, but it's still a good fundamental information. There's actually another book I'm going to recommend for you to read, not seeing which one yet. We're probably going to talk in some of the next sessions about it. This is from Stuart Brown, Play.
Love it.
And it's a great book to get started understanding the importance of play and what play is, and that it's not just for kids. And there's lots of good information in there. And thank you, Shannon. That was a great coffee water time.
It was good talking to you. It goes by so quickly.
I know. I know already a couple of good topics we'll talk about in the future. And so stay tuned, everyone. And I'll see you next time with the Coffee of the Coaches.
Bye.